Good morning. I just want to say I appreciate y'all joining the meeting this morning as we go over the test results for the Iowa Test of Basic Skills and the COGAT test. The idea or the purpose of today's meeting is to kind of make sure that we understand what these results are going to say, because as we'll see on the results, it says, hey, teachers, you need to be able to explain this to parents. And so we want to make sure that we understand what the results are. That's the purpose. Of course, we know that the COGAT test has got a long history dating all the way back to the 1950s. And so it's a really good test. A couple of things that we need to know just starting out is that this is a norm reference test, not a criterion reference test. And a lot of times the parents are not going to understand that. They're going to see NPR, National Percentile Rank, and we'll get to all of these things as 67. And that'll, oh my, what in the world, they failed the test. And so we've got to know the difference between norm referenced and criterion referenced. The criterion reference test is what you typically give. You've got 50 questions on the test. They're all worth 2 points apiece. The student gets a 48 out of 50, they get a 96 on the test. Well, a norm reference test is going to take all the students in that class and basically put the highest grade at a 99 and the lowest grade at, in essence, a 1, and then rank them all the way through. And so it's really, you will see as we look at this test, the student that we're going to look at has a 56 out of 64 as far as number correct. And so if you think about that, that's an 87.5. And that would be a B, and the parent looks at it and says, well, they missed 8, but everybody else in the normed group that was normed in 2017 actually missed a whole lot more than that, and so they graded at a 99 percentile, and so we'll look at that. So we're going to jump right ahead and look at, as I share this with you, the COGAT test first. Now, this COGAT test is an abilities test. This doesn't show really what they know, it shows what they have the ability. We've blacked out, now this is one of our students, but we've blacked out or whited out the name of the student so that nobody can see here. With the COGAT test, if you notice the abilities, there are 3 different abilities. Number 1 is verbal. We think of that as kind of like language arts, word association, syntax of words, how they understand the English language. The second part is the quantitative, and of course we think of that typically as mathematics, computations and things like that, but also analyzing mathematical patterns, different things. And then the nonverbal, and those of course are the ones the kids really love. It's like the paper folding with the, pressing the hole in and then unfolding it, what that'll look like, that reasoning, that analysis as well. And so we're looking at this first column, and you'll see standard H score. What does 138 mean? Well, the standardized score, or SS on the other one will show this as well, is kind of a graded thing. So if they've never taken the COGAT before, we have no frame of reference for this. It really doesn't help us look at anything. Whereas if we have last year's COGAT score, the standard score should say 110 or 100. And then next year's COGAT score should say 160, and we see the progression from year to year. That's what that standard score is. Again, if they don't have it themselves from last year, it really doesn't help us this year. H stay 9. Most parents have never heard what a stay 9 is. A stay 9 is just the standard 9. And so we take all the students and we break it down into 9, in essence, categories. 1, 2, and 3 would be below average. 4, 5, and 6 would be above average, or would be average. And then 7, 8, 9 would be above average. And we just kind of put them in that group. So 7 is slightly above average, and 8 would be more than slightly above average. And then a 9 would be kind of the highest stay 9. And so it just breaks it down. The next thing would be the percentile rank. The percentile rank does the exact same thing, but on a scale of 1 to 99. And so it's a little bit more detailed. Again, one of the things I would tell parents is all of these things are measuring the test that they took. It's just different ways to show that measurement. Just like I am 5 foot 10 inches tall, so I'm 70 inches. Well, I could say I'm 70. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's 5'10". Well, I could also say that in centimeters. We're just saying the results in a lot of different ways. So stay 9 is 1 to 9. National percentile rank or H percentile rank is 1 to 99. Again, comparing it to its peers. And so this student in verbal received a 99. That's as high as it gets. A 97. So out of 100 students, they would have been the third, in essence, smartest, if you could. And then in nonverbal, Down here at the composite, that's kind of taking all three categories into consideration, and that's the core composite. Down here, we see these raw scores. The first one, again, number of items, that's just how many questions there were. Then number attempted, how many they actually attempted, number correct. And again, this is where parents would look at this and say, well, they didn't get 100. Why does it say they got a 99? Well, again, this is the difference between norm and criterion. Criterion, you're right, that is an 87.5. Norm, we've compared it to a group of students that took this test back in 2017, and we're comparing how your child did against those students, and they scored in the 99th percentile. Again, a grade stay 9 and then grade percentage rank. Notice that these are very similar. If you had a young seventh grader that took the test as opposed to a seventh grader that is seventh grade but 10 months, then you might see some deviation there. Again, down here, you'll see the profile, a 9A. 9 is just the average stay 9 here. A is that all of them are together. B would be if we had like a 99, a 97, and like a 60. So one would be quite a bit different than the others, and they go through there. You can, of course, tell the parents to visit this. Again, notice here it says, please contact your child's teacher if you need assistance, and that's why we're doing this today. So they put it on there. COGAT and Iowa put that on there for us, and we just want to make sure that everybody understands what standard age score, age stay 9, age percentile rank, and what these numbers mean. And then, of course, they can put that in the computer. We're going to show the Iowa test as well so that you are familiar with what that looks like as we move over to it. This one is a lot different. Again, it's not the quantitative verbal, nonverbal. It's got the reading and the writing expression, the vocabulary, mathematics, computation, social studies, and science. So kind of this measures how the school, in essence, is teaching these subjects. Again, SS stands for standard score. If we don't have that from previous years, it really doesn't help us a whole lot. Then we're going to jump over P in PR to the last one, national percentile rank. Same thing, 100 students. This is 99th percentile. Down here, 75th percentile. So out of 100 students, this student would score, there'd be 24, 25 that would score better, 75 that would score lower. That's kind of where we're at. Stay 9s, we've already talked about that. NS, National Stay 9. And then this is a predictive national percentile rank. If the student took a different standardized test, this is what this test predicts that they would do. A lot of times you'll see an ACT or an SAT score, hey, their predictive score is this. That's how they're basing that. And so you'll see that. This really has nothing to do with the test that they took, but what they would probably do on a different test is there as well. So that one doesn't really help the parents too much. I wouldn't focus on that if I'm talking to parents. And then the last thing here is grade equivalency. And this is one parents really get caught up with, and we'll talk about this here in a second. But grade equivalency is kind of post-high school. It would be 1 to 12. And a seventh grader who scores a 9 would be, in essence, ninth grade. That's the idea that that's the grade equivalency. And so this one obviously is post-high school. PHS, you'll see that, but Iowa ranks it as a 13 plus. And of course, you can read any of these, or a lot of this helps the parent as well, but those are what these numbers all mean. And then NPR graph, again, that's just graphing it to show kind of a visual representation. Continuing on, just a few things that we want to make sure that we're telling the parents as well. The first thing is the purpose is to help improve instruction and student abilities to learn. This test helps us understand and look at our curriculum better. This helps us know the student, their strengths and their weaknesses better. A lot of times parents internalize these things, especially if the student's low, if they're in the 20th or 30th or 40th percentile, or if they're really high, 80th, 90th percentile. My kid's a genius, they need to skip a grade. That's really not the purpose of the test. It's to help improve our instruction. And so I would really remind them of that. The next thing is students have good test days and bad test days. As a runner, if I go out and I haven't run in a long time, but I go out and I'm fresh and I've got the best shoes on and it's 60 degrees outside, I'm going to run 3 miles. I'm going to run that much, much faster than if I go out in the Texas heat and it's 110 degrees and I've got bad shoes on and I've run 40 miles already that week. there's going to be a difference. And students are the same way. So this is just a snapshot picture of what they're doing academically at this time. And so I would make sure that we kind of include that students have good and bad test days. Grade equivalency, and this is the big one that I kind of have dealt with. Grade equivalency does not equal grade placement. A student, and we saw that student in 7th grade that gets a 13 plus, we're saying that they have the capability of looking at some college concepts and understanding them. We're not saying they're ready for college. We're not saying they need to skip a grade. What they don't know is in, say, mathematics, they don't know the quadratic equation formulas. They've never looked at the civil rights movement and the tendencies and trends and the philosophies that came out of the Enlightenment. All of that stuff that we teach in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, they don't have. And so if we were to throw them, it would be like taking a child who is, swimming and they're in the shallow end and they've got the floaties on and they kind of can swim a little bit, and then throw them in the ocean and say, hey, swim across the English Channel. It's a progress. And so make sure that they understand grade equivalency doesn't equal grade placement. It means this is what an average student in that grade would score as well. And then the last thing, I think that we need to make sure that all students or all parents understand, whether that's they're at the high end, they're average, or they're at the low end, is there are things that the test simply can't measure. Hard work, determination, commitment, creativity, all of those things really are not measured by test. And so I think it's very important that parents understand that, and even the students understand that. We don't want to put a ton of pressure on them because they just can't measure that. It is, in essence, saying if you have a child that is 5 foot, but the average child is 5'5", hey, look, there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just saying that they're below average in stature. They'll get there. We understand that. We work through those things. That's all this is doing. It's a snapshot in time to say academically, this is kind of where they're at. This is how we can help them. This is how we can help them grow. Really prepare the parents that way. Don't let the test say more than it's supposed to say. And I think that'll help us out. Again, if you have any questions, we are free to answer those. And if your parents have any questions, they're free to, of course, come to the office, come and meet with administration about the test answers as well. Really appreciate y'all jumping on today. We look forward to seeing you in the future.